The ScraggyKing20 YouTube channel is almost 12 years old. This channel has been through so many eras, from playing Let's Plays in my bathroom, to Minecraft PvP, to the jump cut highlight playthroughs that you're familiar with today, and everything else in between. Through these almost 12 years of making content on this channel, I guess you could say there is a lot of lore to cover. No way. Unexplained inside jokes.
The faith was misplaced. Here's why I think gamers should have more rights.
Vague inside jokes. Egg.
Egg.
And maybe facts you may not have heard about ever before. Until today. Today, I reveal the secrets of the ScraggyKing20, or Scrags as it's known now, YouTube channel. Welcome to the ScraggyKing20 Iceberg. Now, if you've never seen an iceberg before, basically every iceberg has different layers, and the deeper you go, the more obscure the information gets. Somebody sent this to me, and I have no idea how they even got half of this information, but I guess I could try explaining them all. So, without further ado, let's jump into the first layer of the iceberg. Miitopia. If you are on this channel at all, you've probably watched this series. If not, you've at least heard of it. The first episode of the entire series is my most viewed video on the channel at the time of recording this. It was my biggest series starting in 2021, which ended recently in July of 2023. The series had 2 seasons, one spanning 13 episodes, while the other spanning 7. However, those episodes were typically longer than average. It consists of me, Scrags, and his ragtag group of friends going on adventures to stop the Dark Lord from stealing everybody's faces. A simple premise, but the flexibility of it all, from the characters you can cast in each role, to the random encounters that can happen in and outside of dungeons, have made this one of the most memorable experiences on the 3DS, and one of my top 20 games of all time. You've played the game. This joke started in the Ruby and Sapphire Soul Link that I did with my sister, Safi. Since we have already played through Gen 3 several times, and we had assumed our viewers had done so as well, we skipped through a majority of the dialogue while stating, "You've played the game." This has become a recurring joke throughout the channel, even for games that I've started playing for the first time, just because it's a fun line to say. Mandatory selfie. This was a trend that I originally started for a personal Black 2 Nuzlocke, where I marked my progress through screenshots and decided to coin a funny name whenever I reached a gym leader inside of the Nuzlocke. This would be included from then on in my Pokemon playthroughs, where whenever possible, I would stand beside a gym leader, say the line, before challenging them for the gym badge. And even when it's not possible, I have my ways to get the mandatory selfie regardless. Milkless Luigi. This bit was derivative of Safi's nickname for Dry Bowser, Milk Before Cereal. This bit was introduced in the video We Have Hard DK at Home, released in September of 2021. Milkless Luigi refers to, well, a milkless Luigi, which is a CPU with the hardest CPU difficulty available to the game attached to the bot. There is an ongoing rivalry with Bowser and Milkless Luigi, where Bowser has to defeat him in order to get his milk back. To get more information, you can click on the top right to watch the video for yourselves. Steven Leaf Stone Stone. This is another inside joke from the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire Soul Link. This is a bit that references Steven and his father's obsession for stones, to the point where Steven's middle name was named after Mr. Stones' favorite stone. That guy sure loves the stones. Let's go, the baby. This was a bit started by a good friend of the channel, Ender, in the video Mario Party Game Night, but with 3 Americans 2.0, released on August of 2021. After winning a game, normally you would be inclined to say, "Let's go," but Ender saw an opportunity to say something else.
Oh my god, that was so bad. No.
The baby.
Since this seems to be this person's catchphrase, I don't know, I don't listen to music, this would be referenced in Mario Party sessions in the future, or instead of saying "let's go" after winning a minigame, you would just simply say, "the baby." Ronald McDonald. Before the Miitopia playthrough, the Ronald McDonald vs 100% accurate Fox exhibition set was the most popular video on the channel. This was a best of 5 set between me and my cousin, where I played Fox and he played Ronald McDonald, and we duked it out to see who would win in a tournament setting. This ended up putting my channel into a Rivals era, where I used various workshop characters and fought all the bosses at the time throughout the early lifespan of the game's workshop. Maybe I'll bring back the workshop era someday. Cars is a good movie. It just is. This is just in reference to Cars being one of my favorite movies of all time. Its characters, its morals, its lessons, as well as the way it was presented to me as a kid through high-speed racing matches, while also learning the peace and joy of small-town life, it just really resonated with me. This bit was introduced to the channel, not from the Tomodachi Life videos as you might expect, but from the video Cars is a Good Game? From April 12th of 2020, where I made a jump cut highlight session of me replaying the Cars video game. Occasionally, this would be referenced in future episodes, like the previously aforementioned Tomodachi Life videos, but my love for Cars 1 is still real, and maybe someday I'll pick the series back up and finish the game to show that the game's pretty good too. Super Smash Flash 1. Now, before the Fox and Ronald McDonald exhibition session, there had to have been another video at the top of my channel. And that video was Super Smash Flash 1, The Lost Prequel. This was a video released in early January of 2017, and it is very dated. I was still learning how to do solo commentary at the time. This was also in the early days where I actually started to edit my content. So despite being the 4th most viewed video on the channel at the time of this recording, you could definitely tell it was just a stepping stone for the editing style and commentary that I make today. But it's still a piece of channel history, so there's that at least. Hey Gastrodon, guess what? Grass moves. This is a bit in reference to the meme where Gastrodon's sprite is neutral until it hears the mention of grass moves, a type that deals 4x super effective damage to a water and ground type like Gastrodon. This setup would be used very often in my Pokemon playthroughs whenever I see the opportunity to use a 4x move, whether it be grass moves on water and ground types like Gastrodon, or fire moves on grass and steel types like Ferrothorn. Hey guess what is a commonly used setup that I use on the channel. Mario Kart and Magnet. Have you ever seen this one Daisy clip on GC and DK Mountain? Imagine if this was someone's daily playstyle. On my second channel, you can see me documenting my progress on getting better at Mario Kart Wii. And let's just say it's going, but the amount of times I've been screwed over by RNG has just been so hilarious, and sometimes just inconceivable how I even put myself in these situations. It's been funny to just document how bad things could really get. So if you want to see all of that, you can check out the playthrough in the top right corner. Alright, I've been recording for 30 minutes, and we're only now going into the second layer of the iceberg. The Great Mitzi Hunt. This is a series that I started on March 21st, 2020, a day after the game officially released. This is an almost 50 episode series documenting the process of me trying to get one funny cat in Animal Crossing New Horizons through Nook Mile tickets. For context, Mitzi was my first Animal Crossing friend in City Folk for the Wii, and she was the second person to move out, which devastated me as a kid. So, to make up for it 12 years later, I set up on a quest to find Mitzi once again. And considering we're almost at 50 episodes, it's going as well as you'd expect. Every boss is Yusuke from Persona 5. This originally started as a one-off bit in my Paper Mario Origami King playthrough, where I did an impression of Yusuke's voice from Persona 5 when voicing the Colored Pencils boss in Origami King, since, you know, they're both artists. When approaching the second boss, Twitch chat member and fellow friend of the channel, Icy, made a suggestion that every boss should just be voiced like Yusuke. And so the bit was born, and every voice thereonwards was my impression of Yusuke. The Quizmaster. The Quizmaster is a major character in my Miitopia playthrough. Trickier than most, he was able to trick me in multiple sessions, with his crafty little maneuvers distracting me from winning the prize. I won't say too much about the character because he's pretty important for the plot of my playthrough, so if you haven't yet, you can check out the full context on the top right corner. Friendly reminder to play Rune Factory 3. This is not a suggestion, this is a requirement. Rune Factory 3 is one of my favorite games of all time, if not my favorite. I made an almost 50-minute video explaining why I think this game is so good, so I'll just summarize a part of it here. From its surprisingly deep set of characters, its unique take on the tropes that it presents, as well as innovating the gameplay of the first 2 games that came before it, while also standing out as one of the most unique farming sims even to this day. Despite being a game from 2009, I genuinely think that this game has stood the test of time, especially in the farming sim space. It's the shortest in the series for sure, but I don't think that makes it bad in any way, because even though the games that come afterwards are more replayable, I think the game does a really good job at telling you all you need to know from beginning to end, by integrating the side stories and the main plot to create a complete story. And if you're curious now, you can play it on Nintendo Switch and PC right now. Sadly, not sponsored yet. But I could be. 23 Spring Nartians. This is a reference to my infamous summoning session of Fire Emblem Heroes. For those who aren't familiar with Fire Emblem Heroes, there is a gacha system that gives you a chance to pull a specific character. In my case, it was Spring Est. To get a 5-star character like Spring Est, you have a 3% chance to do so, but only if you pick the blue orb. Each character is assigned an orb color depending on the weapon type that they use. Since Est is a blue tome user, she gets to be summonable with blue orbs. However, there is another character on this banner that shares the same orb as Spring Est, and that is Spring Nartian. Spring Nartian is also a demote character, which means not only can you get it at 5 stars, you can get it at 4 stars as well, which gives you an extra chance of pulling it, by about 3%. So 6%, right? Still pretty small. So why did I pull 23 of them? Everyone that tuned into the session was just as confused as I was, because getting a 4-star Spring Nartian is individual to the 5-star rates, which you could say is a 50-50 of getting Spring Est or Spring Nartian. So if you think about it, I basically pulled the 3% chance 23 times in the span of 2 sessions, because this is including the session that I did the year prior. And let me tell you, you don't need to know anything about Fire Emblem to know that this is just terribly unlucky. So if you're interested in seeing the process of me trying to pull this one character, the video will be linked on the bottom right as well. The Gamer Realm sitcom. This is an episodic series that I made based off of my friends and I, who go on silly, wacky, and crazy adventures, all animated within PowerPoint? This whole bit is a reference to the joke of calling something with a low frame rate a PowerPoint animation. This inspired me back in 2016 to try and tell stories using PowerPoint, moving the PNGs along the screen and using editing and sounds to fill in the rest. Currently, there are only 8 episodes, and a Choose Your Own Adventure, which was the big April Fool's project of last year. There are currently 2 routes available, but a third pre-DLC route is in development at this moment. But you didn't hear it from me. I am a comedian. A laugh. This was a bit started by Safi, where the punchline is just to laugh. This is often brought up to fill space as an additional punchline, because after all, what do you do when you're in the presence of a comedian? Crom is a mid-tier. This was sort of a half joke that I started when Ultimate just released, where in every tier list I just put Crom in mid-tier. This was due to his very streamlined recovery, as well as the recovery itself being pretty exploitable. The only thing keeping him from not being in bottom tier was the fact that he had a pretty solid neutral, so it kinda balances out. While this ended up being half joking in nature, the prophecy kinda just aligned itself in the end. So I guess Crom is a mid-tier after all. Potion Money. Potion Money is another bit that was started in the Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire Soul Link. This is when Safi and I were struggling to get healing, so all the money that we would get from winning fights would immediately be dispensed towards getting more potions, hence the name Potion Money. Erica Gang. This is just in reference to Erica being my favorite gym leader. I mentioned it once in the Ruby and Sapphire Soul Link, but there's not too much to say about it, it's just there. Respect Your Knights. Respect Your Knights was a parody of Chillin' Dudes' Respect Your Elders. Respect Your Knights was just meant to be a silly reference in Can I Beat Pokemon Gaia Using Only Steel Types Part 4, but good friend of the channel Wishcave inspired me to make a full version of the parody, which officially aired in the Can I Beat Pokemon Gaia Using Only Steel Types Part 5 video. Maybe someday I'll do an encore just like he did. And now we're moving on to the third layer of the iceberg, starting with Mewtwo Samus is 100-0 on Melee Temple. This is referencing the time when Wishcave, the Mewtwo player, the way I word it is like he's a Mewtwo player, no, well he's playing Mewtwo, and myself, the Samus player, again I'm not a Samus player, but we're just messing around on Temple. This was still in my early years of Melee, so I didn't really understand how to play the game. So Wishcave was basically just messing around with Temple, as well as using Temple shenanigans to his advantage. This resulted in a very difficult matchup for me, struggling to kill Mewtwo until around 300%. This is still referenced to this day as the most impossible matchup in Melee. Matnor Comedy. Matnor Comedy was the channel that was eventually turned into ScraggyKing20. It was originally just a channel where I would post 10 to 20 second bits. Some of them didn't make sense, and some of them also didn't make sense, but it was just somewhere where I would just post silly videos of whatever inspired me at the time. Nowadays, the channel is used as an extras channel, where I post jump cut highlight videos similar to the stuff that I post on the main channel, but without any direction in mind, allowing me to experiment with different styles of content, including stuff like discussion videos, or smaller direct reactions like the Pokemon Presents. The Yoshi Prophecy. The Yoshi Prophecy was a bit that started when I saw GCN Yoshi Circuit in the track rotation of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's online system. The Yoshi Prophecy consists of this: play Yoshi, on the Yoshi bike, on GCN Yoshi Circuit, and it will take you to victory. And in the one session where I did just that, a miracle happened.
Kind of mid.
Lance Attempt 53. This is a reference to my Pokemon Soul Silver Hardcore Challenge playthrough, which was the rule set that I used for my Pokemon Shining Pearl Hardcore Challenge. But this one wasn't recorded, I just wanted to replay Pokemon Soul Silver. I drafted a team before the game started, and realized that I didn't have any Dragon-type counters. So Claire took me about 40 attempts, and Lance took me 53. This was one of the craziest moments of my Pokemon career, because I was not allowed to reset once I entered, and I was not allowed to grind excessively. So what I had going into the champion fight was all I've got. So I had to meticulously use all of the held items, all the RNG, and everything at my disposal to make sure that I got the perfect run. But fortunately, while I didn't record it, I did document all of my attempts through text. Here's the screenshot if you want to read it, and here was the winning turn.
If I land this hit, it's a 1v1. We're both paralyzed. If I get the paraproc, I think I lose. No way, no way, no way, no way, no way. Let's go!
Definitely one of the most exciting moments I've ever had playing Pokemon. And trust me, the Shining Pearl one is just as crazy, if not even crazier. So stay tuned for the finale coming eventually. ScraggyKing20. The name's origin. This is an interesting one because a lot of people expect Scraggy to be my favorite Pokemon because it's in my username, but it's actually not even in my top 50. So why did I pick ScraggyKing20 as my username? Well, it was because of one video, and it's probably not what you might expect, but that video is later down in the iceberg, so I'll wait until we get there. DK Pass. DK Pass is considered to some Mario Kart DS time trialers to be one of the worst courses in the game, but as a casual myself, I think it's quite alright. So for fun, I decided to time trial it. I don't really know why this is here on the iceberg, but maybe I'm referring to this clip that happened during a stream.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, what?!
I faced death. I watched death in the eye, and the snowball said, maybe next time.
Wishcave passes out from exhaustion. This is a joke referring to the time I did Quiz Up Hunger Games, where I would just pit a bunch of characters inside of the Hunger Games simulator, including my friends, random fictional characters, meme characters that we made up on the spot, and one of those sessions had my friend Wishcave get the same prompt several times in the same game, which was pretty funny, so we quote that sometimes. Paper Mario VX Ace. This was a project that I started back in 2015, where I tried to recreate the original Paper Mario inside RPG Maker VX Ace. Except not quite, because I took quite a few, and by quite a few I mean a lot, of creative liberties. In fact, the game was basically a recreation, but also a sequel I had completed the first 4 chapters of the game, threw in a Sans fight, and then moved on to other projects. I recently replayed it blind for the first time in like 8 years or something, so if you're curious to see what was actually in there, you can check it out on the top right corner. TM69 Harden. This is one of the weirdest timed bits that had ever happened completely on accident when my friend Osiris and I did a Pokemon Platinum Soul Link. And in that Soul Link episode, I was talking about some of the random encounters that you could potentially run into inside of the old chateau. And this is what happened.
That TM69!
Everything lined up for that moment. My channel peaked at this moment. It's all downhill from here. Shiny Regirock. I did a Pokemon Emerald randomized Soul Link with my friend Wishgave. And while surfing around for some story beats, I encountered a shiny Regirock, which was incredibly tragic because it was in explosion level up moveset range, and my lead was an Arbok with Glare. Now, back in Generation 3, Glare had an accuracy of 75%. And with that mention, you might already have figured out what happened. Regirock still curses me to this day. 2000 ping Mario Party 5. This is a reference to an old Mario Party 5 video that I did with some of my friends. And to play Mario Party 5 netplay at the time, especially with 4 people, you needed a pretty good and stable connection. Something which I did not have, which caused ping numbers to reach, well, 2000. Skytree Village. If all the Rune Factory content wasn't a huge indicator, I am a big fan of farming sims. And right when I was starting to get into them, was around the time Skytree Village came out. And I was not aware of the split between Marvelous and Natsume, which meant I fell into the Harvest Moon trap, and was thoroughly disappointed with my experience. And this is to say, very rarely do I find a game I do not find any source of enjoyment in. I liked Sticker Star. Let me repeat that. I liked Sticker Star. But Skytree Village exists, so now whenever I play a Natsume Harvest Moon game, I typically refer it to Skytree Village, since the gameplay experience is relatively similar to what you'd expect from that game. One day I'll get to Winds of Anthos. Alright, we're moving on to the 4th layer of the iceberg. Dama's me is in permanent retirement. This is just a reference to my friend Dama, who has a Me and My Miitopia playthrough. And let's just say the game did not treat him very kindly. So at the end of the playthrough, when everything has all been said and done, and the final boss has been defeated, this happened. Of course, Dama's the first person to dip. You know what? Godspeed. Enjoy your retirement. You deserve that retirement, me Dama. Gluton. Gluton was a nickname as a reference to Gluttony, the Smash player that plays Wario. By removing the suffix at the end of it, you could consider it a Wish.com Wario player, which is what I was when I was playing Smash Flash 2, and I started messing around with Wario. So I dubbed that Wario Gluton, also known as Tigag. This was when I would do game sessions with my friends in Discord voice calls, where I would stream the Great Ace Attorney, and we would all read and play it together. And this was before I used OBS regularly, so I still used the Elgato program to stream my games to Discord. And in the Elgato program, you can add a couple tags and stuff to your files so you can organize them a little easier. And to kind of fill in space, I filled them in like this whenever I was doing those Discord streams. The Great Ace Attorney, also known as Tigag. And the joke kind of just stuck. Paper Mario Boss Rush. This was another Paper Mario themed thing that I did back in 2015, where I tried recreating all of the bosses at the time in Minecraft. I tried recreating the arenas, some of the boss gimmicks to the best of my potential, and you know, it was playable, mostly. The references were pretty fun to see at least, but this was before I learned World Edit was a mod that you could use in single player. So a lot of the things were very simplistic in nature, because I had to do it all by hand. So what if I didn't have to? Well, we'll check up on that another time. Super Saiyan Hariyama. This is a reference to a Gartic phone session. where I just randomly came up with this bit to make a Super Saiyan Hariyama. There was no setup to this, it was just something I thought up at the time, and then it stuck. And now, Hariyama has memed his way into becoming one of my favorite Pokemon because of that one spur-of-the-moment inside joke. Safi moment. It's kinda hard to describe what a Safi moment is, so I'll just show you guys an example to show you guys what I mean.
See, Accumula! Where'd you get a Accumula?
I said Accumula!
No. Did you? Accumula Town. Oh, but
It's Accumula Town.
Oh, we're gonna accumulate the shows.
I actually have an E. This is in reference to the time that I played Tetris with some friends on a server. There was this bit that was set up and he tried to continue it, but his mic cut him off, resulting in this iconic line.
I'm sorry, there's something I haven't been telling you guys. I actually have an E.
You have a what?
And
You have
he
an
sometimes
E?
does.
Anime visual novel in the top 10. Lately, I haven't had a lot of time to play video games, which is why whenever I do those top 10 video games of the year, all of the top 10 games are basically all of the games that I've completed in that year, which is why some of the lower end games wouldn't exactly be something I'd put in a top 10 if I had played other games outside of those. However, sometimes I pick up a visual novel here and there, and I end up somewhat enjoying it, to a level where I want to talk about it in a video. But they always end up being so high, so it's really funny seeing games like this outplace games like this. Weiju Weiju. This is just an inside joke between my friends and I, where we turn the electronics Nova Cry into an onomatopoeia. The best Amber player in the world. That's me. Also known as the only Amber player in the world, because nobody plays her. This is in reference to me taking the mantle to represent Amber in Genshin Impact. You've probably heard of it. There's really not much to say about this bit, it's just something I said when playing Amber because someone's gotta have to put the respect on her name. Amazonas Jungle. This is in reference to the video This Made Minecraft 1.18 2000% Funnier, released in February of 2022. This was a video series where Safi and I messed around in the new Minecraft update to see if we could beat the Ender Dragon. And during that session, we had a side goal of looking for a jungle temple. And during that session was probably some of the most fun I've had playing vanilla Minecraft in a very long time. Here are some of my favorite moments of the Amazonas Jungle Explorers.
Cocoa beans? Pick it up, young one. The Amazon jungle is... Oh, that's it?
Well, I mean, there's some on the other side.
Oh, the Amazon jungle continues. There we go. This was just the baby brother that was neglected by the family for eons. This is the one that the parents let grow and nourish. It is true!
Wow, sir! Let's go in!
What mysteries lies beyond? Oh. Holy
Oh my god! Be careful, sir, there's another one!
Where is this? Oh my god. Oh my
No, there's
god.
nothing there, sir!
I'm literally blind. I thought that 2-block thing was the skeleton.
It's quartz!
It's quartz!
Trust me, if you missed this video, don't make that second mistake a second time. This is one of my favorite videos on the channel, so if you missed it, check out the top right corner. The Okeo Revive. This is a deep cut reference in reference to one of my Pokemon Emerald randomized series. And by one of, I mean the only one. I wasn't comfortable making Nuzlocke at the time, so I was just doing a casual playthrough while messing around with the randomizer. And one of the weird things the randomizer did was have the trainer use a revive on one of their Pokemon, which ended up knocking them out in the process. I honestly wouldn't believe myself if I hadn't recorded it. Alright, we're actually speeding through these pretty quickly. Let's enter the 5th layer of the iceberg with Reimu is not top 10. This is just in reference to Reimu being a pretty popular character in Touhou, a video game about the Undertale battle system, and a very tired exterminator. Even though I do have respect for the character, I like to make this bit where I like to put her just outside of the top 10 of every character ranking I do for the game. Minecraft PvP. This was an era. You know that one scene in Ratatouille where the judge eats a meal and is brought back? That's me with Minecraft PvP. I would just log on Bad Lion, grind, build UHC, MCSG, watch my favorite Minecraft PvP content creators, learn tips and tricks from them, and try and emulate that into my own playstyle. It's something I reference pretty often when I make Minecraft videos, and is a day that I would like to go back to just one more time. One more UHC. Couple hundred more survival games episodes. Just the gameplay kept me going. It was so fun to just rod, set up combos, practice quick shots with the bow, the thrill of MCSG queuing into it over and over with a friend, seeing if you can get that one victory. Yeah, sure, I could play other Battle Royale games if I just want that feeling, but there was just something about Minecraft PvP that I really enjoyed. So here's my excuse to bring it up again. Was that a misfire? This was a quote made by Ender in the video Scraggy and Ender Try Playing PM, released in May of 2018. This was when we were messing around in the game, and I tried to explain one of Luigi's gimmicks, that being using his side B caused him to have a chance to make it go super far, making it super strong. And when I did another move that kind of vaguely fit the situation, the iconic line was born. Bulbasaur is my favorite Ivysaur. The sequel to Scraggy and Ender Try Playing PM, Scraggy and Osiris Try Playing PM. This is in reference to Osiris playing Bulbasaur. This is in reference to Osiris playing Ivysaur, and mistakenly referring it as Bulbasaur. Kind of an easy mistake to make, honestly, but is also the reason I called my Ivysaur amiibo, well, Bulbasaur. So you think you can dance. From the same video, this was another line that I randomly blurted out after returning back to stage using Snake's Recovery, as Osiris tried to ledge guard me. This was another thing that kinda just stuck. It makes absolutely no sense. But then again, isn't that the best part? The Halv tournament set hijack of 2019. Back when I had a competitive Smash Ultimate circuit with a bunch of my friends, fellow tournament organizer Chibichu and I would sometimes play the game and practice with each other. And in one of the stage rule sets I had set up, Halberd was on that rotation, and Halberd kept getting picked among all the other stages that I put. So it ended up being a fun little joke, until we had this idea, when we met in bracket, to gentlemen to a Halberd only set. This was one of the most fun sessions I've had playing Ultimate, leading to some iconic moments such as the book snipe. SNES Ghost Valley 2. This is probably referring to the time where I grinded SNES Ghost Valley 2 while trying to go for time trial standards, which is basically a set of community set goals where you can get a rank for beating specific times. For example, the milestone I was trying to aim for was Expert, and I decided to reach that standard with SNES Ghost Valley 2. This was one of the longest, most serious time trials grinding sessions I've ever had, so I guess that's why this is here. And I did end up getting it, so at least we got a happy end to this story. Reshiram Zekrom. This one's a funny one. This was when I played a bunch of Kokoto Kart Racer, which was a karting game surrounding Kokoto and his friends, kinda similar to Mario Kart. I used to grind this game a ton as a kid, and whenever I'd play online, I would use the username Reshiram Zekrom, because at the time, Black and White were new, and pretty controversial. So I wanted to try and help the multi-billion-dollar corporation and promote the game using that username. A very innocent goal. I guess you could say this is one of my first ever usernames, and it was all to promote Pokemon Black and White for the Nintendo DS. The Generic Tax Salesman. This was one of the original characters that we had concocted for the Quiz Up Hunger Games series. If you couldn't already guess, this was another random haha character I just came up with on the spot. But his character was so funny and out there that he kinda just stayed as a recurring character in the lore. Basically, his goal is that he would sell other people's taxes that he'd bought from other people along the way. He's a devious, mischievous character, and all he wants to do is put more financial ruin to all of his clients. And he somehow gets away with it. Truly one of the most feared characters in ScraggyKing20 canon. Matt's Quadruplet. If you've seen the Tomodachi Life playthrough, you're familiar with the lookalike, the twin, and the triplet. In one of the episodes, I did mention the potential of a fourth, a quadruplet, if you will. But perhaps we've already seen what he looks like. But that's all I'll say for now. Naruto Crack. This is a legendary moment when my friends Dama, Wishcave, and I were all playing on Super Smash Flash 2, and we encountered this room name. Flash Cave. Back in the day, I streamed Pokemon Snakewood with some of my friends, as they would explain to me the silly, wacky things about this strange little ROM hack. And to match with the spooky zombie apocalypse vibe, every time a Pokemon died in my Nuzlocke, I would have to read a scary Pokemon story. One of these being the Flash Cave. And it was kind of just talking about how you would enter this secret staircase if you didn't use Flash inside of one of those dark caves. And by doing so, you'd enter this strange limbo. And it was just so funny that we still quote it to this day. Alright, the next part of the iceberg. The Spirit of Kane. This was a reference to a playthrough I did of the Pokemon fan game Touhou Puppet Dance Performance Shard of Dreams. In that series, I caught a puppet of a character called Kane, and this character was iconic to the playthrough because of how many times she would crit the opponent. Her crits would save me from so many tough situations, creating for some legendary moments and storylines as she passed it down to her student, the Puppets and I. Melee Unbalanced. This was a mod that I made for Super Smash Bros. Melee, which aimed to kind of be like a Brawl Minus of Melee, where everything was crazy, wacky, unbalanced, but still pretty playable. Although it originally started as a project where I wanted to try and buff Roy, one of the bottom tier characters in the game. Currently, the official release is at 1.3, but a 1.4 version of the mod was planned, though there seems to be no plans in continuing the mod. Mostly because for some reason, no matter what I do, Kirby crashes the game if I make one change, so yeah, it's kinda just stuck there. Black Bullet Opening. This is a reference to the anime music quiz game, where whenever Safi and I didn't know what song was playing, we would just guess Black Bullet. That's it, there's really no reference to it in a video, it's just on there. Keyboard Melee. Back before I got my GameCube controller, I ended up learning Melee with keyboard. I got somewhat decent at it. I could do some of the tech, I could do some of the movement. It wasn't perfect, but it was playable. But now that I've finally gotten comfortable with the controller setup, it's kind of hard to go back. But maybe I'll revisit it in a video in the future. The Monsoon. This is in reference to the video I recorded with Osiris, when he mentioned this line.
It's like a monsoon outside right now.
A monsoon?
A monsoon. Like, I'm in the eye wall of a hurricane.
And I thought it was just some random thing he was saying. But, no, that's a real thing. I thought he was just saying monster wrong or something. And so is eye wall of a hurricane. Which, you know, I thought it was just some, like, fictional monster. Because I was thinking literally, there is an eye wall inside of a hurricane. How am I supposed to know these things were real? Pokemon Black and White Wi-Fi Battles, Episode 35. Remember when I was talking about the origins of my name? Well, here it is. Right there. That scene right there. When he pulls up his pants and let's go. I thought that was so funny. And that was the moment then on that Scraggy was on my radar. And he was my mascot. Him. I wanted to be just like him. DS Mario Circuit. My favorite Mario Circuit in the entire Mario Kart series. It's just so distinct, so fun, it's got some interesting gimmicks. The layout is quite unique, and it just looks and feels so different to all the other Mario circuits in the series. But I understood that it was a very obscure course in the game, so you know, I kind of just enjoyed it in silence. And then they remade it for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and that's when the game finally peaked. I'll have to do a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe ranking video in the future, but this is definitely one of my top 5 courses in all of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Trading Lucina and Heroes. This is the second Fire Emblem Heroes mention in this iceberg, and this one was a little different. You ever heard of the 5 stages of denial? Well, I just skipped to bargaining. And my bargain was that I would trade my favorite Fire Emblem character if I could get this one character that I started to like recently. And then I got 2. So on stream, I fulfilled my promise. And I regretted it ever since. And then after I apologized, the game gave me another one and it had the exact same IVs as the first one. She came back. What the hell is a Toho? It must suck. Yeah, I did say that once. And now look at me. Melee fanfics. This is a deep cut. This is a reference to an emote story where I would have Fox and Falco from Melee in wacky situations inspired by Diamond and Pearl's comedy routines in the Pokemon Adventures manga. So with that last entry, you might be wondering, how much more is there left? And there is a lot more left. Melee Link. At one point I started playing around with a bunch of low tiers in Melee, and I made this video after playing a bit of Melee Link. Imaginary Superload. This was a series I made when I was messing around with the stop motion feature on the 3DS camera app. I had plans to continue this, but for some reason the lighting on the 3DS stop motion feature was so poor compared to the actual lighting system that I ended up just scrapping the project overall. Maybe if I find an app that makes stop motion just like the 3DS camera app, I could try bringing it back, but for now there are no plans. Bernard, the viewer with an average view duration of 226. When my friends and I recorded the Wave 6 video for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, my friend Juice had this bit when playing on Madrid Drive, where he would only speak Spanish throughout the entire race. When discussing it after the session was over, I was curious to see how many viewers would actually be able to understand the joke. And when looking at my analytics, I learned that my Spanish audience has an average view duration of 2 minutes and 26 seconds, way past the timestamp where the Madrid bit happens in the video. And so, in the description, we came up with this inside joke where we would ask Bernard to watch the video until the end in Spanish. He won't get away with 226 this time. Paper Mario Boss Rush Remake. Oh, I didn't even realize this was here, so I guess I could show off a bit of it. Right there? Right there. This is in reference to the time Safi and I played Smash Ultimate, and we were messing around with Villager. One of the Downtowns looked like they were pointing at something, so we made it look like they were showing something to each other by pointing at something that was right there. Patchy Gang. Basically, this was a bit where we all found a Minecraft skin of patchouli knowledge from Toho and made a gang out of it. That's it. That's a tall tree. This is a reference to one of my Hexed videos that I recorded with Mr. Flapper. At one point in the video, I had to go AFK to help my dad with the groceries, but I let the video run and Mr. Flapper had some additional commentary in between that time I was AFK. One of those lines just being,
"That's a tall tree."
Pokemanimations. This was another thing I did with the stop motion app on the 3DS, where I messed around with my Pokemon figures, simulating battles and just messing around with the stop motion stuff in general. The first video went up on February of 2013, and the last one went live November 8, 2014. Atticus Finch is the voice of God. Nate Smith. This is a reference to the character Atticus Finch in the book To Kill a Mockingbird, which was a book that Mr. Flapper and I were reading for our English course. And at one point, I forget why, but the topic of the movie came up, and we learned there was a movie, and in one of the comments we just saw that, and we just started quoting it. This was when I was like 15. You quote everything at 15. But hey, it's on the Iceberg. Next up, we have went way past the Iceberg. We are going deeper and deeper, and things are just getting even more obscure. Supra Mario Bros. Legend of the First Meme. This was a game that I teased in the Scraggy Direct of April 1st, 2019, about Meiro and his edgy brother Luigi as they go through wacky adventures to obtain the first meme, the nice back hair. This was an idea my friend Dama and I thought up back in 2017 that I revived just to add something in this 2019 Direct. But let's just say since then, there's a bit more to it. Why can't Diddy grab ledge? This is in reference to Diddy Kong in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, where whenever I would play him, a lot of times his up B would just not snap ledge, like a bunch of other characters in the cast could easily do. I can't remember who made it, it was either WishCave or me, but this meme came out of it, and now it's just another piece of deep ScraggyKing20 lore. My specs are fine, I have an i3. This was a Steam review that my friend Lam and I found. I forget which game it was. It was either CSGO or Poppy Kart. And you can tell I don't know which one because I can't find it anymore. But it still lives on in our hearts. Poppy Kart, more like Poopy Kart. Now this one I knew was a Steam review for Poppy Kart, another Mario Kart inspired game, where you play as Poppy and all his other friends as they try to find Froggy, who ran away from home. Level 9 Brawl Olimar. This was a scrapped video that I recorded with Lam, where he and I would try and 2v1 a level 9 Olimar in Brawl to see if we could beat it. Not Melee. Not Melee is a mod that I made for Super Smash Bros. Brawl, in an attempt to try and make it faster while not trying to directly turn it into Melee. This would also try to overtune the characters to try and be like Meta Knight, because if everyone else is S tier, no one will be. Scraggy Direct, April 1st, 2019. This was the 2019 April Fool's project that I made, where I had my friend WishCave do all the announcements. It would consist of real announcements for upcoming videos, game announcements that may or may not come out eventually, as well as a one more thing at the end of it. Definitely one of my favorite projects on the channel, and it's something I kinda wanna try revisiting now that there are a lot more resources available to make it look a little nicer. Because at the time, no one made a green screen for any of the transitions, so I had to screenshot every single one of an actual Nintendo Direct, frame by frame, green screen it, and move on to the next one, and then put it all together. It was a time. Faceless Lam. This was a glitch that occurred during Stardew Valley's Moonlight Jellies Festival, where for some reason, on Breadboy's screen, Lam's face disappeared, and for some reason his axe was connected to his face. Kind of spooky, but perfect for a screenshot in the Iceberg. Pokemon Esmeralda. This was my first ever Pokemon project, mixing Fakemon and future Pokemon alike, and trying to change up the Pokemon Emerald Pokédex with those new additions. And then I never changed the trainer sheets. So sometimes, because of the mons that I swapped out, you could just run into a fake Reggie in the first gym. And also because of how early some of the tools were at the time, cry pointers were at a point where if you added too many, you could actually corrupt some of the other cries, and make them unfixable unless you wanted to start the whole process of importing all the sprites and everything all over again. So the project kinda just exists as a piece of obscure lore, but maybe I'll revisit it and polish it up. I haven't even explained why it's called Esmeralda either. Pokemon Esmeralda is based off of the fictitious character Esmeralda Jason, created by my friend Magic Marker and I back in elementary school, where we would take scrap paper from the printers, which were just excess paper that the school used to recycle back into the printer, and we would highlight some of the Wikipedia pages and stuff to try and make our own story for Esmeralda Jason. And since a lot of those Wikipedia pages that we were highlighting were Albert Einstein's, let's just say Albert Einstein is very closely related to the Esmeralda Jason lore. Now we are at the second last category of the Iceberg. The original Gamer Realm UHC Season 4 reboot. For those of you who don't know what UHC is basically like a battle royale where you are scattered around a map, usually around 1000 x 1000 in size, but sometimes bigger and smaller depending on how many people are playing, where you have a fixed amount of time to gather resources before meeting up at 0-0 to try and become the last man standing. All without natural regeneration, which meant that you had to heal using only golden apples and regeneration potions if the rules allowed it. Back in the day, I had 9 seasons of the Gamer Realm UHC, which is an ironic group name that I made up with my friend Laughterboy. Then I rebooted the Gamer Realm UHC series, which went on for 8 more seasons. And in that reboot, Season 4 actually had 2 versions. This was based off of the Nuzlocke UHC script, which was another UHC group that had a Pokemon-styled gimmick to go along with UHC, where each player would have a specific type, with some perks and some drawbacks that come with each one. However, the fighting type was incredibly overtuned, causing it to become horribly unbalanced. Because of how polarizing it was for the player that chose the fighting type was banned for the actual season that came out to this day. Cheating in TCG2 Live on Twitch.tv. This is a reference to when I played Pokemon TCG2, the sequel to the Game Boy Color game Pokemon TCG. In that stream, I used save states to manipulate coin flips, figure out what my prize cards were, so on and so forth. Cause hey, after all, it's not cheating if you don't get caught. You shot me, you nerd. This is a reference to the time that I played this one social deduction game. I forget what it's called, but all I remember from that session is I was playing the game, and then suddenly I died. And then right after that moment, the sheriff came up and said, "I'm sheriff, and I shot someone to make the game progress." Bang, bang. And from the peanut gallery, I said, "You shot me, you nerd." This is why the only Among Us video on the channel is the time that I played it in Minecraft. Guys, hail Pico. I think this is the first meme that I've ever made, which was around the time Twitch Plays Pokemon was super big, and it was like, you know, hail Arceus, hail Helix, the 2 deities sort of thing. And then, what if there was a third? It is very hard to explain what this is without explaining everyone involved, so I will just leave you guys with this image. Yep, this is how it all started. Quiz Up the game. What do you mean? Quiz Up is already a game. But what if it was an RPG? This is an old game that I started like 2016, 2017. I don't remember the actual details, that's why it's this low on the iceberg. But then I revived it for the 2019 Scraggy Direct, played around with it for a bit more. I originally had another Direct that year that I wanted to dedicate to how that progress was going, but then the ideas got a bit too ambitious, so I put the whole project away for now. Mario Sports Superstars video scripted since 2020. Originally, I wanted to make a video on Mario Sports Superstars. I forget exactly why, once again why this is this low on the iceberg, but I think it had something to do with me wanting to compare it to everything that came before it. Because I found it interesting that it took some elements from games already on the 3DS, and then just watered those down a bit, and then add some fun gameplay sessions of each game, but I procrastinated too long on it, and then Scott the Woz made a video on it, and I'm like, the script is like 60% done. If I wanted to finish it, I could, but I don't know what else I could add. I don't really know what direction I want to take it at this point. Fire Emblem The Glistening Blade. This is another game project that I started using SRPG Studio. This is a program kind of like RPG Maker, where it simplifies the game making process, where instead of being geared towards RPGs, it's geared towards strategy RPGs, such as Fire Emblem or Advance Wars. Not much can be said about the project, it didn't get too far, but I did do a dev stream of it one time, and yeah? And now, the last layer of the iceberg. We are finally here. Pokemon Emerald Nuzlocke. This was my first ever Nuzlocke, and it is lost media. I only have the final episode and the episodes that I've already uploaded on YouTube, but at this point I don't know if I want to upload such an old playthrough, despite how historic it is in terms of my Nuzlocke history. Maybe I'll try to like PowerPoint animate it and like summarize it or something, but we'll see. Yokai Watch Creepy Dex Entries. This was inspired by Jay Witz's weird and creepy Pokédex entries, where I had a Yokai Watch Prima guide and looked at some of the descriptions for some of the yokai. And needless to say, some of the things were definitely on par with some of the stuff in those Pokédex entries. Maybe I'll bring it back for the second channel. I still have the script, actually. I had like a top 10 and everything, so maybe I'll read it out for fun, but for now, it is just an idea floating there. Oh, Michael. This was a recent ad because I actually had to look this up. And turns out this is also lost media, because this is in reference to a Pokemon Showdown Day 1 Gen 9 OU replay. Now, there was an issue with Pokemon Showdown replays, which caused some of the replays in a specific time window to have been wiped and lost to time, which meant that the only memory I have of this is the message that I attached afterwards, Epic +6 Lilligant Sweep. And now I guess we will sadly never see what that Lilligant sweep would have looked like. Spirit Tracks Part 3. I think this was referencing the fact that the Spirit Tracks post-commentary series was originally gonna be 3 episodes, but I decided to ultimately turn Part 2 into a long 50-minute video. Unfortunately, this was when I edited at like 30% volume, so the sound mixing is really poor, but I remember spending so much time on that, just editing non-stop daily, and it was my favorite video for so long until I rewatched it like a year later, now learning that I was editing at very low volume and hearing all of the like sound clips and but it's still on the channel if you want to watch it. Just, you know, watch it at 30% volume. Blaze Black 2 Anime Lock. This was a custom Nuzlocke rule set that I made for myself when I wanted to try and get into Nuzlocks, way before the Lost Media Pokemon Emerald Nuzlocke. This was a much easier rule set which gave each of my mons 2 deaths, but tried to compensate in other ways, such as me only having 2 chances to get a badge or else the run was over. Here are the other rules if you're curious, and honestly, in retrospect, I think it's kind of crazy that I jumped into Blaze Black 2 back when I was like, when did this video come out? The first episode came out September 23rd, 2014, and the most latest episode came out January 28th, 2016. Maybe I'll revisit this after Renegade Platinum, and then I'll check out Blaze Black 2 Redux. Despacito 4. This is gonna make no sense, but basically, I had this bit where Ramilia Scarlet from Toho would sing Despacito, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever, and I called it Despacito 4. That's it. Pokemon Snakewood 2 and 3. This was another announcement made in the Scraggy Direct of April 1st, 2019. The only thing that was real of that announcement were the sprites. However, I did try to make a Pokemon Snakewood 3 using Platinum as a base. It did almost happen. And lastly, Smash 4 Roy Lab Notes. This is kind of an anticlimactic one to end on, because this is just a notes tab of me trying to figure out every single kill percent for each Roy move because I was bored, all in the default Smash 4 3DS training room with no DI. I remember checking one after the other, 140%, 141%, 142%, which hit side B1 would kill. It's 820% by the way. That being said, I don't know where I was on the stage, and I don't know which stage this was tested on, but I have the notes, and these are numbers for something. And that is the entire ScraggyKing20 Iceberg. It was fun kind of picking at old lore things and looking back at some of the memories that I've made on the channel, whether it be in my solo commentary or the stuff I've done with my friends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This took me 3 hours. I did not think it was gonna take this long, but hopefully you found some fun out of it, and maybe learned some more about your favorite series along the way. And that'll be it for this April Fool's special. Thanks for watching, happy April Fools, and now I have to figure out what I'm gonna do next year.